I used to be really into playing arena-based playlists because honestly, I've always enjoyed playing Fortnite very competitively. Up until like more recently during like chapter 3 as well as chapter 4, I've kind of lost that energy when it comes to playing the ranked playlist or just, arena back in the day. And I want to explain why I genuinely don't like arena and I think ranked is a worse mode overall. So back during chapter 1, they decided to add in the playlist that we know as Arena, and this essentially was for competitive players to be able to play a mode that wasn't necessarily a tournament, but would allow them to rank up in a way that felt actually rewarding. Now, in chapter 1, the mode actually did work pretty well as a ranked system simply because there was a lot of players, but the mode itself pretty much depends upon there being a large number of players. Because the point values are so far apart, it's impossible really for Epic to put you up against players of a similar point value as you, because there's just not enough players in each match nowadays. Now that's probably the main issue that I would say revolves around Arena, or at least what did revolve around Arena. And again, it worked back in the day up until like chapter 2 season 5 when the game really started dying when it came to comp. However, up until that point, the arena system was pretty solid. Like, it wasn't a perfect playlist and it still was probably one of the worst in most games when it came to ranked, but it definitely did a lot of things correctly. One of the things that I actually really liked about it that they've kind of run back on now with the new ranked playlist was the fact that they actually did make some attempt when it came to splitting the loot pools. This would mean that you wouldn't see weapons that were really broken in the ranked playlist because they simply just didn't fit well into that category. Now, they obviously didn't do a huge split. It wasn't like they actually had only balanced weapons and ranked at all times. It would still mirror the loot pool that was in the normal public lobby modes, but it would be more toned down to an extent. So for example, if something like the bounce pads or the bouncers or even planes or helicopters were too broken for that playlist, Epic Games wouldn't add it into the game. And this was understandable and something that I and most of the community was very happy with. Now, of course, they've never actually done it to the extent that I wish they would, but I still think it's worth mentioning because now that the new ranked playlist has been out for a while, they still haven't fixed the fact that the weapons that are in comp are the same weapons that are in the normal public lobbies playlist. Now, I shouldn't really have to explain why this is a problem, but for any brainlets out there that don't see this as a problem, it basically is just summed up with the fact that public lobbies players now have to experience the changes that are for ranked players, and ranked players have to experience changes that are meant for public lobby players. So essentially you have a one-size-fits-all solution and no one's happy. It's something that I've talked about before, and I genuinely don't like it. This new ranked system doesn't just suffer from that, however, there's also the problem that this ranked playlist removes Siphon, a key feature that's been a part of every single competitive mode since chapter 1 season 7. Like, it really is unfortunate that they removed probably the best feature that they've added over the past like 5 years. And they really haven't given much of a reason as to why. I've heard people say that it has to do with the idea of having more players towards endgame because you have less incentive to push or something when there's no Siphon on the line. But it's just so silly to think that, because as soon as you get done with a fight, which you are most definitely going to be taking a large lump sum of damage from, you have absolutely no health or shield. Of course, there's things like the new slurp that can kind of add some padding for this, which make playing the mode a little bit more bearable, but it's annoying to hit someone for a lot of damage mid-fight, and the next time you peek them, they're back up to 200 HP simply because Epic decided to add a broken healable into the game instead of actually just fixing the fact that there's no Siphon. Of course, these changes could end up being implemented by the time the new season starts for the ranked playlist, but the fact that they haven't been already is kind of stupid, and it leads me to believe that the changes that they'll be making to this mode will only be happening whenever a new season comes by, which I think is a really negative thing considering this game runs off of the idea that you should be doing bi-weekly or even weekly changes at times to the various modes. So to neglect a playlist that's already been in the shitter for such a long time just makes literally no sense. Again, this shouldn't be something I have to talk about, but I was just playing the new ranked mode like not that long ago, and again, I took a long break because of how bad Arena was for a very long time. I didn't like much of chapter 3, and I think chapter 4 has been a bit of a refresher and when they announced they were doing a new ranked system, I was very excited because I thought the game might actually be going in a good direction for once. However, we ended up just getting something that was equally as stale as the playlist before, and I would go as far as, I don't think this is a crazy take, but I would go as far as to say that the new ranked playlist is actually way worse than Arena. Like, despite the fact that it might have better actual skill-based matchmaking or better interpretations of your skill level, it's just overall a worse playlist. Anyways, I kind of wanted to talk about it because I think it's an important thing to understand that this game is not doing very well when it comes to competitive, and really hasn't been for like the past 3 years. Epic Games really needs to figure out their shit, because to be honest, playing a mode that doesn't have Siphon that's supposed to be competitive, it just feels wrong. I mean, at this point, we're literally just playing public lobbies with more skill-based matchmaking. It's not fun, and nobody who plays competitive wants it to be this way.